Good morning from another warm day here at Brands Hatch in the southeast of England. I'm John Jackson, alongside me a guy who knows just what it's like to drive in the GB3 Championship, Piers Pryor. And yesterday, an exciting race which saw Callum Voisin extend his lead at the top of the championship. However, he's got a new title contender in second place with Joseph Loke taking the win. Alex Dunn, who was in second place for High-Tech Pulsate, had a day to forget. Let's remind ourselves of what happened in the first race of the weekend here at Brands Hatch yesterday.
Highlights from around 16 of the GB3 Championship, partnered by the BRDC. Joseph Loke starting from pole position and leading into the first corner. Callum Voisin also along with him. In the Championship Challenge, though, it was a big shame for Alex Dunn, who would go for a spin at the first corner, courtesy of contact with himself and the JHR Developments driver of Matthew Rees. It would send him into the gravel trap where he'd be beached, he'd be out of the race, he would lose crucial points in the Championship, and also the safety car would come out. There was still plenty of attacks in the background as Kuharczyk was trying to work his way up the order, attacking the rear end of John Bennett. Once we got to the restart, Joseph Loke was in control. He would lead through the final corner and would time it to perfection, pulling away from Callum Voisin. Unfortunately, John Bennett wasn't timing it to perfection. He would lose out of position to Kuharczyk on the run down into the first corner, and then to Matthew Rees as well. With this send around the outside going into Druids, he would commit fully in his JHR Developments car on his recovery drive, and around the outside he would go. Speaking of JHR Developments, unfortunately for Morales, there was an issue. He'd be beached in the gravel trap, and that would neutralise the race once again. Loke would be in control on the safety car restart, and we will be back racing at Brands Hatch. Werberski trying to get around the outside of Shin before being squeezed off just a touch on the exit of Druids corner, and the drive up the order from Noah Ping in the number 3 Arden VRD car was absolutely incredible. He got ahead of his teammate Chris Dedulu and was pulling away almost inside the top 10 after starting from the rear of the field. Matthew Rees was feeling pressure from John Bennett all over his shoulders as we would come through into the final complex of corners, though. It was Joseph Loke closing up in the championship on Callum Voisin, who was pulling away to a 7-point lead.
So after that race victory for Joseph Loke, he is second in the championship table. Let's take a look at the full rundown then. Callum Voisin for Rodin Carlin, he's on 307 points, the championship leader, actually extending his lead from 1 point to 7. Joseph Loke driving for JHR Developments on 300 points right behind him. As we saw there, a terrible day for Alex Dunn, not finishing the race, not making it around the second corner. The Irish driver for High-Tech Pulsate is third on 277 points. James Headley for Arden VRD is on 252 in fourth place. Mackenzie Creswell, who we saw on the podium for Elite Motorsport, 246 in fifth, with Matthew Rees, JHR Development driver, 239th. He's in sixth. Timet Kuharczyk for Douglas Motorsport, he's on 234, down in seventh, with John Bennett for Rodin Carlin on 150, alongside Jared Werberski, the Fortec driver from South Africa, also on 150, with the American driver Noah Ping, who had an exceptional race yesterday. He's 10th for Arden VRD on 145 points. I mentioned Noah Ping there. I mean, an exceptional race from him. He'll be looking to make up some more places, and it feels like he's one of those drivers that's taking a little while to get used to that Arden VRD car. We've seen some sort of flashes of brilliance from him, and he'll be looking for a consistent weekend and hopefully making up a few more places today.
Yeah, struggles in qualifying, which is why he started down the back, but a great drive through the field, getting, pretty much halfway up from right at the back of the grid. You mentioned, he's come from America, joined the championship new this year. It took a while to find his feet, but then obviously took that race win at Snetterton in, I think it was race 1 or race 2, so out and out race win. Showing great pace again this weekend, but unfortunately shows how important qualifying is to how successful your weekend can be.
It really, really is. And when we look at Joseph Loke before the race yesterday, we talked to him. He was very successful here racing last year. He loves this track here at Brands Hatch. He says that you can push everything to the limit, and he really, really did in qualifying, which meant he was up there and taking the race win. He wants to end this weekend the championship leader. He's now 7 points behind Callum Voisin, but Callum Voisin will start on pole position for this upcoming race. And as we saw yesterday, it's hard to overtake here in the GB3 Championship. Do you think Callum Voisin is the favourite for this race win, considering Joseph Loke loves this track and has already won once this weekend?
Well, you say, he loves his track. So does Callum Voisin, to be honest, because last year he was rapid. He was probably going to be pole, but unfortunately had a crash in qualifying and then made loads of places up through the races. We know he's fast. He was second in qualifying, not far behind. So in race 2, I think it's going to be all about who gets off the line first. We saw yesterday that red flags or safety cars are likely because of all the gravel around here. So if there's anything that goes on in the race, we'll have another safety car restart right behind us here on the start-finish straight. Yesterday, Loke managed them perfectly. Can Callum Voisin do the same? Only time will tell.
Well, we mentioned Alex Dunn, high-tech Pulse 8 driver, didn't manage to get around the second bend there with that contact. And I know you spoke to him after the race yesterday, so let's just hear what Alex had to say about the incident that meant he didn't finish the race.
A hugely disappointing start to this race of the weekend. Of course, your hopes in the championship are you're right there 1 point behind. This is a bitter blow, but just give us your side of the incident.
Yeah, I think I made a super good start, and then I went around the outside of Reese in turn one. I left him all the room in the world pretty much, and then I don't know what happened, if he hit the curb or made a mistake or what, but he ended up driving into my rear right and I spun. So I don't really think there was much I could have done, but yeah, these things happen.
Yeah, it was so close. You know, you were going side by side in there. It did look like he nibbled the curb a little bit. We're going to go Matthew's obviously view of things, and I'm sure the stewards will have a look at it as well. But of course, you're now looking ahead. What can you do for the rest of the weekend to maybe get some of those points back?
Yeah, I think the only positive for the rest of the weekend is the fact that we have fresh tyres. Obviously, we have a race distance less than everyone now, so we have good tyres for race 2, and then we'll have a fresh set from quali for race 3 as well, which in these conditions when it's so warm with the degradation probably being so high can probably be quite helpful. So yeah, you know, I'll just try and maximise what I can for the rest of the weekend, and hopefully we can keep it clean.
Brilliant. Thanks for chatting to us. I know it's disappointing, but hopefully we'll go well in the rest of the race.
Well, a very grown-up response, I think, there from Alex Dunn. You know, to only make 3, 4, 5 seconds of the race after all the build-up, all the testing, all the qualifying, you know, it must be a real sort of dashing of your hopes. However, very mature in his response. What did you make of that incident with him and Matthew Reese?
Yeah, I mean, he definitely had a mature response. I mean, he knows that that's going to be damaging to his championship. He was right there, and it's put him on the back foot going into the final few races of the season. But yeah, you mentioned, took it very well. I went over to him literally as he came back to the pits and said, look, mate, you know, really hard luck with that. Do you fancy coming and chatting to us on the telly? And I fully assumed and was happy for him to say, no, you know what, I don't fancy it, because he's well within his right to do that. And he's like, no, I'll come over and have a chat. Came over, and he was very reserved. He said, you know, no, I feel like I gave him space. I got turned round. It's one of those things. I'll carry on for tomorrow. And the stewards did agree with Alex's report of the incident. It was Matthew Reese has been given a 3-place penalty in today's race for causing a collision with that. So Matthew Reese, just a small mistake on the inside, not allowing space for the car on the outside.
Well, we have to talk about a couple of other things. You know what, I want to bring up Mackenzie Creswell, because last time out of Silverstone in the wet, he won a race, he came second in a race, and actually finishing on the podium again in 3rd place yesterday. He's a driver that we saw last season, and things didn't really come together for him. We actually talked to him about growing up in the United States and how much he loves IndyCar, you know, and every weekend he's there watching the IndyCar as well and dreaming of being in that championship. Things haven't really worked for him until now, but now, with those 3 podiums, 3 trophies in his last 3 races, things have really clicked with him. Is that something that, when you're a driver and you're being frustrated and whatever, can something change in you? Maybe it's a change of who's coaching you, or just a change of approach?
I think for him it's just a culmination of all the experience he's had. He raced in the championship last year with a different team, moved to Elite this year, and he's just building and building. He's still quite young, despite him, you know, being way taller than us and looking quite mature. So he's just building and using all the experience he's getting throughout all the races in the season. Of course, Elite Motorsport will be helping him as well, and he's just showing that by the end of his, you know, your 2nd season in the championship, you can really start banging in some results and getting consistent, and that's what he'll need to win championships in the future. Whether he comes back next year in the GB3 Championship and tries to win it, not sure, but we definitely see he's got the pace at some different circuits, Silverstone and now Brands Grand Prix. So yeah, the podium yesterday was great. We'll see how he does today. Yeah,
very, very positive news. More positive news as well. The Red Bull Junior driver Suter Aral will take part in this race. We can probably see just now, I don't know if we saw this yesterday, but the state of his car after the accident he had in qualifying yesterday, which meant he couldn't make race 1. Really, really important for him to get back out there and get a good result, because you know, ending your session like that, and when we saw the car, you were looking at it, and actually, you know, mechanics from other garages were coming out and going, oh, I'm glad I'm not fixing that car right now. It didn't look good, did it? And
no.
Again, as a young driver, you make one mistake, it can really knock everything out of your weekend.
Yeah, it was a mistake in qualifying. He was pushing hard to try and get as far up the grid as he could, just much like everyone else. But we've said it before, Brands Hatch Grand Prix, especially that section out of the back on the Grand Prix loop, the margins are so fine, and if you do make a mistake, it can be a big accident because it's just grass and gravel, not much runoff, and then an Armco barrier. And he hit it hard. I don't know exactly where and what happened, but he clearly went in backwards, and I was there. Well, we were both there, and the car came back to the paddock, and yeah, the whole rear end of the car was completely smashed. A lot of work for the high-tech Pulse 8 team to get that car going again. couldn't quite get it fixed for race number 1, but good to see him back for race 2 and 3, and we'll see what he can do because he has had good pace in testing.
He will be looking to make up some serious places in these next 2 races, I'm sure. You mentioned that we're on the GP track here at Brands Hatch. It's not something that is always the case. You know, there are a limited amount of days that you can race on that track, because actually I didn't realise how close it is to housing back there. But after doing the track walk recently, you know, there are a lot of people there who probably don't want to hear racing cars and motorbikes all the time, but we are very lucky to be racing on this circuit this weekend. Let's take a closer look here at the GP track at Brands Hatch.
Well, to West Kingsdown in Kent then, as we head to the jewel of Kent. It is Brands Hatch, one of the most iconic circuits in the United Kingdom, most notably courtesy of its undulation and iconic corners. Paddock Hill, Surtees, up into the Grand Prix loop when you go into the woods, up to Hawthorns Bend. All of these corners are absolutely iconic. We begin this drop down the hill through Westfield Bend, up Dingledale, and then through the Sheen Curve into Stirlings, and that final run down to the last corner. It is a difficult track to overtake at the best of times. Qualifying and track position will be absolutely key to success around here, as working your way through the field will be difficult, especially when it comes to working up positions in the reverse grid race. You can see the undulation and the up and down of the circuit is its most notable feature, dropping all the way down through Paddock Hill before rising up towards Druids. It's a fantastic circuit. It's a short circuit, just 2.5 miles all the way around through all of these really tricky corners, all 11 of them, most of them going to the right. Leaning on that front left is a key thing around here, so keeping control of your tyres on this very toasty September weekend is going to be very, very important.
So that's the track here in the southeast of England at Brands Hatch. Hello to everyone watching around the world. 13 different nationalities represented in the GB3 Championship this weekend. So lots of time differences. So if you're staying up late or you're up seriously early, thank you very, very much for joining us. Now that was the track here at Brands Hatch, and we always like to take you a little bit closer. And in the latest part of our series, Max Maserati, former GB4 driver last season, along with our very own Piers Pryor, went out on the track last night to take a look at some of the most important sections.
Another race weekend, another circuit, this time Brands Hatch Grand Prix. What a track, Max.
Yeah, this is one of my favourite on the calendar. I mean, in a GB3 car, you almost like this is what the circuit is almost built for. It's so fast. And I think they are as fast, if not faster now, than like late 70s F1 cars.
Mental.
Which is, especially when you consider back then, turn 3 was different. That was like a flat out corner back then.
Yeah, and now we brake for it.
Exactly. You know, that's huge, that pace difference.
Yeah.
You know, these cars are quick.
Really quick, and we're going to talk about some of the really, really fast sections and corners out the back of the circuit in just a moment. But let's start with the start of the race, and a very unique start-finish line. You can see by the way we're standing, it's very much on an angle, and the circuit dips down as we're looking at it now, which will be up for the drivers as they pull away. But also, it's different, you know, gradient and undulation depending on where you start. The drivers have to think about that, right?
They do. I mean, there's only so much they can do after qualifying. You know, that's your spot. That's it.
Yeah.
You can't. But the things you can do is positioning-wise. You know, you don't actually have to ever face dead straight. You can angle the car a bit. So if you're actually on the inside of the circuit here on what would be our left, you can actually then, the circuit's right, you can actually basically point the car a little bit upwards. You want to go up the hill because the car will always try and slide down after the start with that gradient. On the outside, you're facing it inwards to go downhill. And that's why I think you often see people kind of meeting in the middle a bit. But if you're on pole, it's the one circuit where pole actually isn't the best place. You're not going to have the best off the line. Luckily, you're still on the inside to cover off into turn 1, but normally 4th is actually the best place. It's the flattest point on the hill where it comes back up again. So they're going to have normally the best start, but 2nd is still normally slightly better in terms of grip of the line than 1st.
Yeah, and we often see some battling into turn 1, and of course turn 1 is the world famous Paddock Hill. Let's head over to it, Max. We've made our way to one of the most iconic and coolest corners potentially in the world, Paddock Hill. I don't know if the camera is doing it justice, but it is so steep. Max, we just walked up here and I've forgotten quite how steep it is, having driven here before.
Yeah, this is one of the best corners in the world. It's fantastic. There's just nothing like it. You know, it's right up there with Eau Rouge at Spa. You know, and it's actually harder. You know, that's easy flat in those cars. In this, you know, in a GB3 coming through here, it'll be a very light brake. You know, trying to get the car in back to power so early. The compression, the minimum speed they'll be carrying here, it's something that I wish that everyone could just experience once.
It really is amazing. I mean, I remember driving here and you're going over and you're dangling on the belts because the car's being sucked and you're pulling down, and when you get to the bottom it properly slams, the car bottoms out. It's almost like you can't keep your eyes up.
Yeah, and one of the crucial things with setup rounds here is how low you can get the car to run before it bottoms out. I mean, you want a little bit, but they're all run. The planks are wrecked by the end of this race meeting. They're screwed up so much on the floor over there. But it's about trying to make it that you're not going to do it too much that you actually lose speed and it drags speed out of the car before you get to Druids. But it still needs to be low enough that it's going to skip across the bottom of the floor, but then still be low enough around the rest of the circuit. It's a real crucial part of setup. You normally have people, engineers, standing at the top of paddock in the practice days just watching to see, are we bottoming out more than anyone else?
And we see the car of the pole sitter, Callum Voisin for Rodin Cullen, the championship leader as well, Piers. And we've seen so far in the GB4 Championship and in the first race of the weekend in GB3 that whoever's on pole position has won the race. Obviously, there's you're one slight mistake away from not doing that. But at this track, especially in GB3 where it's tricky to overtake, you've got to think that Callum Voisin will be the favourite to win this race.
Yeah, most certainly the favourite to win this race. If you can get a good start away and then control the any safety car restarts like Joseph Loke, who's in second place, did yesterday, then I don't see why not. But again, Joseph Loke, we saw he had the pace yesterday. It was fastest in qualifying, but this grid is set by second fastest lap, so that's why they've swapped round for race number 2. But don't count out anyone within the top 3 or 4, because a good launch off the line could see you potentially leading at the end of the first lap.
Yeah, we saw Mackenzie Creswell win a race at Silverstone as well, and he starts in P3 for Elite Motorsport. So you've got to think that he's really found that connection with that car. So between Joseph Loke and Callum Voisin here at the front, he's the kind of guy that could benefit equally. James Headley down in 4th place, in a great position as well. Yeah, still in 4th place in the championship, I believe. So he's right there, and it's interesting that we've got the top drivers in the championship at the front of the field in qualifying, really, isn't it? It's only Alex Dunn, of course, who had that unfortunate crash yesterday, who's not right up at the front of the field in this start. But we showed yesterday, with Dunn going off, don't count out any contact in the first lap between the front few, because it's getting to that point of the season where everyone's pushing hard and wants to get the edge over their competition. Yeah, let's go for a little walk here. I don't know how long we've got actually, because I think maybe the race before has maybe got a recovery that they're doing here, and obviously we're going to have to move pretty sharpish. If we hear the whistle of doom, which means that the cars are going out here, we're sort of in no man's land. We're gonna, they're gonna try and whistle in my ear to put me off, but it's fine. We're good. We're good. We can see here Alex Dunn, as we mentioned, in the grey car here, the high-tech car. He's going to want to make up for that incident in that first race. Yeah, and it's worth mentioning, of course, that Alex has done. He mentioned in the interview we did with him, but his tyres will be one race newer than everyone else's. So I expect him to have pretty good pace, especially at the start of this race, and potentially even a bit more pace in this afternoon's reverse grid race as well, because every lap that these tyres do, they degrade ever so slightly. I mean, the drop-off isn't quite as aggressive as potentially maybe in Formula 1, but they're best when they're new, and the closer to new they are, then the more lap time you have. So we're looking forward to him potentially being a bit racy in this one. Well, obviously we see James Headley is just in front of him in 4th place, and you think if you're James Headley there, you're going to be fearing that he's going to have some better traction on those tyres, aren't you, from the start? Potentially, yeah. I mean, the traction doesn't make a huge difference, I don't think, with a newer tyre, but it can always be a little gain, and it's more about just nailing the start. And we've said it in GB4, but we'll say it again in GB3. The starting grid here is so unique, the fact that it's sort of off-camber, downhill, and you have to hold the car on the brake with your foot, no handbrake in these GB3 cars. It makes that start so much harder, which means that the margin for error is much bigger. So if you nail it, you could jump a row. If you don't get it quite right, you could either stall or drop, tens of places. That's the kind of thing that drivers, I imagine, do a lot of practice on, make sure their start routine is locked in. But behind these guys, we see in the black and white Rodin Carlin cut here, Costa Taparis, and he's not maybe had the luck that he wanted, but he's obviously put in a great lap here to qualify so high, and it'd be great for him to get a result here, because things haven't particularly gone his way. No, it's a great showing towards the end of his first season in the GB3 Championship for Costa in the Rodin Carlin car. His second fastest lap was clearly very close in time to his first fastest lap, because he's leapfrogged the rest of he's leapfrogged a bit further up the field than he was yesterday. But he's coming strong on the second half of the season. He's shown flashes of really, really good speed, but hasn't had the consistency quite of maybe his teammate, especially Voisin at the front of the field. But Voisin's a second-year driver, and that's the thing, isn't it?
you need to have that experience to be able to, or the experience counts, as we've seen in GB4 with Tom Mills.
It's a very, very good point. Actually, I want to focus on the car actually behind, and it's Matt Rees, the number 5 car here. It must be really tricky to be a driver, especially a driver that's come into the championship where you've already been driving last season, and then your teammate is actually doing better than you, and he's actually, you know, the lead driver, as you'd maybe call it for your team. It must be quite hard as a driver, because obviously you know, it's your teammate, but you're still racing everyone else.
Yeah, I mean, of course it is. You want to, as with anything in any motorsport series, you want to be the lead driver in your team. And Matthew Rees has really shown really good pace last year, shown really good pace this year, but for whatever reason, more often than not, Joseph Loke has just been able to find that little extra, and it might be just because the way things fall. Sometimes you do need a bit of luck to go your way, and especially over a season, little things can just push you in the right direction. But interesting to see Matthew Rees has got 2 almost new left-hand side tyres on his car here, so he's going to have some good pace as well.
He will indeed. I think we mentioned it a short while ago, but if we just pan around to our right, to the cameraman's left, we've got the Red Bull branded car of Sousa Arau. Obviously didn't take part in that first race, so I guess he's got the same situation with tyres, you know, one less race in those tyres.
Yeah, absolutely. Sousa Arau did do some decent laps in qualifying, which is why he's starting in about 11th or 12th place, and unfortunately didn't partake in race number 1 due to the damage he sustained in his qualifying crash. But good to see him back out. He'll have good pace, much like his high-tech teammate as well. So looking forward to him having some good races out today. He will feel like he's a bit out of the loop, because last time he was out on circuit, he was in the wall, but you know, he'll be up to speed in no time, I'm sure.
Well, obviously Alex Dunn, you know, has been really impressive for high-tech Pulsate, so you know that team knows what they're doing. So driver error, I guess, and move on from there. You know, we've obviously got John Bennett here, who we talked about yesterday. I actually need to talk about Jared Waberski here in the Fortec car with the lovely fluorescent yellow flashes here. Obviously South African driver. Hello to everyone watching in South Africa. I know a lot of his family and friends always tune in for these races. His dad Garth always supporting him as well. And you know what, he was impressive yesterday because it didn't go quite well as he wanted in qualifying. He was actually, I think, 4th fastest in the last testing session before qualifying. You know, qualified down, I think, in 14th for the first race, and I think it's 14th, as you can see behind on the board, for this race as well. Still managed to make up places yesterday and showed that he's not the kind of driver that is going to let something as disappointing as a bad qualifying session get him down. No,
we saw that in GB4 last year. Jared Waberski doesn't hang about. He likes getting stuck in, and he's a racer, and he'll push on from here. Not the qualifying that Fortec wanted. You can see the 2 Fortec cars side by side, and I think it is 14th and 15th places. Max Estes on the right there with the purely red and white car, and you know, again, Max Estes, a second-year driver. Not been the season that he wanted. I actually spoke to Max earlier on this week on Monday for my day job, and we did a podcast, and he's looking forward to the future already. He said it's not been the season he wanted, but it's not going to hold him back. He's still pushing on. He's got the confidence in himself and what he can do, but you know, sometimes in racing you need everything to fall your way, and it just hasn't quite been that season for Max or for the whole Fortec team, really.
Yeah, and a big shout out to Robin, Max's dad, who's normally here supporting him. Haven't seen him this weekend, so I'm not sure if he's come over, but you know, we get a lot of parents and actually family and friends who travel for these international drivers to come to the UK, and obviously what a lovely time to come to the UK at the moment with this weather. And you know, you don't see behind the scenes, you know, just how much the effort people put in and how much expense there is also to come and support their kids or family members. So you know, a big shout out to everyone that makes journeys, because you know, certainly when you're coming from South Africa, like Jared Waberski's family are coming over for the double header to end the season, back-to-back weeks obviously at Zandvoort and at Donington Park. So you know, shout out to them, and thank you very much for watching on the live stream as well. You made me think that
was
I was
a
about
massive
to get run
hornet
over.
on your shoulder for a second.
Really?
There. Yeah. Anyway, we survived. But I think one thing I'd like to mention, I think it's worth pointing out how close the GB3 Championship is, especially considering, you know, last year Fortec were right in the championship hunt with Joel Grandforce right until the last round. Luke Browning eventually pipping him just. But there's not many massive changes between last year and this year, and just those fine margins, you know, 2 or 3 tenths can be the difference between pushing for a championship and just not being quite where you want it. But you know, I'm sure we'll see Fortec right back up at the front next year when we regather things, because they're a top team with a lot of experience in this and other single-seater categories.
Absolutely, they are. Well, obviously, Callum Voyson will start on pole position for Roden Carlin. Joseph Loke, the race winner from the first race with JHR Developments, will be just behind him. Let's take a look at his hot lap here around Brands Hatch GP.
On board with our eventual pole sitter Joseph Loke around the Brands Hatch Grand Prix circuit. Turn 1 is Paddock Hill bend. It's steeply downhill on the exit, and it car bottoms out in the middle just there. Watch out for track limits as well. then Druids, braking in a straight line, trying to get right to the apex nice and early, hug it all the way around and a straight exit. Watch the curve on the left-hand side, it can drag you off. Immediately right for Graham Hill bend, nip the apex on the left and watch out for track limits again on the right-hand side, your lap will be deleted. Next up we have Surtees, which feels like it goes on forever. Left, left and left. It goes steeply uphill on the exit, watch out for the curve as it comes up quickly. Now the only part of the circuit where you get a small breather, the straight towards Hawthorne's Bend, down Pilgrim's Drop. Just preparing the tyres for what would be our eventual pole sitting lap. Now the entry into Hawthorne's, almost completely flat out once we're at full racing speed. Watch out again for the curve on the exit, no run off there whatsoever. Another blind exit with Westfield. Again, the curb can drag you off the circuit. A couple of drivers falling foul of that in qualifying. Sheen next, again completely blind when you turn in, you have to be completely committed. No curb on the exit, again a mistake could be costly there. Then Sterling's, banked corner, again the curb on the exit comes up very quickly. One more corner to go, Clearways. It's uphill on the entry, then flattens out and goes downhill steeply on the exit. The car feels like it wants to wash out onto the gravel. You can see that DeLoke is pushing hard now as he starts what will be his pole-sitting qualifying time. To see an onboard lap there. I'm going to grab a word with Jonathan Hoggard. Jonathan, you're a multiple race winner in this championship in 2019. You're now mostly in a coaching role with the Fortec team. What have you been saying to the drivers to hopefully get them the best result in this race that they can?
Well, to be fair, it's just, I mean, they've driven plenty of laps around the Indy track, but the GP track is a completely different circuit out there. So it's just a case of, you know, really trying to push the car and like be at one with the car, run the back of the track. Because there's not many laps around there, and if you get it wrong, you get it wrong big time. So it's a fine balance between the two.
It's very much a fine balance, and we saw that in qualifying with a couple of mistakes from the other drivers. Brands GP, a notoriously difficult circuit to overtake at, but we've seen it is possible. Callum Boyson did it last year, made up a lot of places. We've seen other drivers do it. What's the key to making your way through the field if it is possible?
Yeah, I think a good start off the line, as always, and then just like I said, it's so difficult with the dirty air. Is very difficult in these cars, so just trying to put as much pressure on the guys in front as possible. Trying to get a bit of a cutback out some of the corners, but generally it's more of a follow the leader type race. I think Ed had a good race yesterday, so if we can continue sort of building on that, it should be a good weekend.
You mentioned that dirty air, of course. People who are involved in motorsport, they know intuitively what that is, but as a driver yourself or you have driven, what does it feel like when you're behind another car?
Yeah, so it's quite strange because 1 minute you'll turn in with the same amount of grip that you normally have, and then suddenly the car will just almost push out completely wide. So you have no control over it, apart from maybe just trying to alter some lines on the way in. But it's so tough to race in. You can gain all the time in, but then you'll just lose even more on the way out.
That's it, and it's trying to maybe stay out of that dirty air in the car in front if at all. Right?
Yeah, exactly. I say you can manipulate your line, so maybe you don't do your traditional sort of quali line, but again, it's just a case of just trying to follow as close as you can and try and put the pressure on the guy in front.
And then we've got the reverse grid later on. I'm sure you've already been planning, and we know what the drivers are thinking about for that. It's a bit of a different kettle of fish, isn't it, the reverse grid? It's a bit more chaotic potentially. What's the outlook for your drivers for that race later?
Yeah, I think it's just generally just trying to sort of build on the first two races and just not try and take too many risks, because at the end of the day we've still got another couple of race weekends. Brilliant, thanks Jonathan for chatting to us, great to hear from you. Where's John? Sean, I think that's the whistle, I better shoot off.
Let's walk this way, as Aerosmith said, and get out of the way of these cars that are very, very dangerous, and make sure we're not in the firing line at all. Great to chat to a driving coach there. Any driver coaching?
Not a huge amount in there. I've done a bit in karting, but more recently I've been doing other things. But hey, it's good things to keep the drivers involved if they can't actually drive on circuit themselves.
Yeah, and we've seen that obviously with a couple of GB4 drivers right as well. And just did a bit of this now, aren't you?
Fun.
Some stuff. She's very busy. Well, look, the cars are just going out here now. So Piers is off. I'll take that, officer. He's going to join Lewis McGlade for commentary. Let's go racing. It's the first race of the day here on Sunday, the second race of the weekend in the GB3 Championship.
wait and see as... Well, sorry about that. I'm just, I clearly don't have to use a commentary booth. Anyway, as I was saying, we are into what has been a very, very interesting weekend of racing. We had big drama yesterday when it came to the what happened with High Tech, what happened with Alex Dunn into the first corner. Obviously, there was contact between himself and Matthew Rees. Big shame for Alex Dunn, but he does find himself now 30 points behind in the championship. Of course, the big thing for him is that he's got to work his way up now. It's kind of now or never. There's 8 races left to go in 2023. And so for Alex Dunn, there is going to be a lot of work. Let's take a look at the grid, though. He's going to have to work his way through. Callum Foyce is still waiting for his first victory in 2023. We'll start this one from pole position. Joseph Loke in second. Mackenzie Cresswell will start from third, with James Headley starting on the second row. It was a slow start from Mackenzie Cresswell in the previous race. See what we can do in this one. Alex Dunn, retirement from the first race at the very first corner. He'll start this one from fifth alongside Costa Paris, having a great qualifying session. And there was a driver he made contact with. It's Matthew Rees starting from 7th place. Zach Taylor inside the top 10 for Chris Dittman Racing, starting this one from 8th. Timothy Kuharczyk worked his way up the order very well yesterday. We know he's got a large amount of fans in chat ready to watch him march his way up the order. He'll be alongside David Morales in 5th place. Oliver Stewart will start this one from 11th, with Suter Arau making his first start of the weekend after not being able to make the race start yesterday due to an issue in qualifying. John Bennett will start this one from 13th position after a really solid race yesterday. Unfortunately, qualifying his second lap was not great. Jared Wilberski in 14th, Max Esterson in 15th. Ed Pearson makes it all 3 Vortex, 14th through 16th on the grid. Nico Christodoulou will start this one from 17th, with Lucas Styko in 18th. Michael Shin actually ran really well yesterday, was the only high-tech driver that was left in the race. He starts from 19th, with Gerard Shee starting from the final position inside the top 20. Those final few positions, Artur Roujon will start from 21st after moving his way inside the top 15 yesterday. Daniel Mavliatov will start from 22nd. Sean Rashid and Noah Ping, who in my opinion was one of the best drivers yesterday with his excellent driving up the order, managed to get himself almost inside the top 10 before receiving a post-race time penalty. It was very interesting to see, but we'll have to wait and see whether he's going to be able to do it again. 2 races back-to-back, being able to work your way up the order. Yeah, not the easiest one. It is quite tricky to work your way through. I am joined in the commentary booth by Piers Pride, but I won't let him jump on the mic super soon because he has been running. It is a long run from, as you can see down in the assembly area, to basically where this camera is.
A lot of stairs, Lewis. A lot of stairs, that's for sure.
Certainly so. Yeah, that camera position is genuinely basically right next to the commentary box. And on what is a record-breaking weekend temperature-wise, the second highest temperature on the 10th of September is 20 degrees, and it is currently 28. Yes, I know.
Genuinely?
I couldn't believe that.
Wow. Summer came late this year, and thank God it did, because it's heating things up for the GB3 Championship, Lewis. Looking forward to the race. You can see those drivers at the back of the field angling the car down. Costa Paris and also James Headley doing the same thing. Here we go, green flagged. That means we're going racing any second now.
Certainly does. Callum Foyce will start this one from pole position alongside Joseph Loke. Oh, it's a big start though. Look at the wheel spin there from Callum Foyce. He might lose out here to Joseph Loke, who's got straight around the outside. Good start from Costa Paris as well. This could be the race lead for Joseph Loke. He's sending it around the outside. He's 7 points behind in the championship, and this could be big. Joseph Loke trying to send it in, but it is Callum Foyce just about able to hang on.
That was a great start from Joseph Loke and couldn't quite keep it around the outside. Callum Foyce braked very late into Druids.
John Bennett was the one that just went off there, and I think Noah Ping also. So there's been a couple of drivers going off. Mackenzie Cresswell defending here from James Headley. So a couple of issues on the start of the race.
Yeah, that was an interesting start there. Not exactly the launch off the line that Callum Foyce would have been hoping for, but we heard from Max Maserati on the track what we did last night, that you can see the circuit makes a difference. He'll start 3 wide almost going into Hawthorns.
That would have been pretty scary. Certainly woke us all up. I think it was Christodoulou trying to work his way through. Once again, the up and unders, the ducks and weaves as they head through Hawthorns and up towards Westfield Bend. There is another look. That's Matthew Rees trying to work his way past Costa Paris at the back end of the top 10. Kuharczyk not having quite a great start here, still on the rear end of Zach Taylor. This is further down. Battles between Pearson and Esterson. The 41 of Pearson, Esterson in the 42. Not able to make his way through. Christodoulou Dulu at the head of all of that. John Bennett also into the mix.
Yeah, there's a massive gaggle of cars back there. Not the best start from Max Esterson. He dropped a couple of places from his original starting position, I think. Or has he? Yes, he has, because Jared Boberski is up a bit higher, but Costas Taparis defending at turn 1 from Rees. Rees is going to get the cut back. Taparis defending early. That's good defensive driving.
Yeah, certainly so. Here comes Rees then around the outside. I think he's just going to get driven out wide here by Costas Taparis. Not really got an overlap as Matthew Rees. He was looking maybe to dive one down the inside of Graham Hill. He's still going to look free. He's still going to commit to it. And Costas Taparis had to get out of the way. That was bold from Matthew Rees. Taparis just off the road, but that's of his own doing. He saw that coming down the inside late and went, whoa, no you don't, Tiger. And straight off the road he went.
That was rude from Rees, but I'd say very good.
I'd agree.
Not polite, but very good. Oh no, that is contact between the number 3 of
Rashid and
Ping. Yeah, so Ping clearly trying to make up those positions. Sean Rashid not doing that. Kuharczyk looking around the outside of Zach Taylor at Hawthorns. It's all kicking off. Hopefully those cars at Druids can retrieve themselves so we don't have to neutralise the race, but we'll keep you updated on that.
Yeah, we've not seen them come round. We can have a little bit of a view out of it from our commentary booth, and I've not seen those cars come through, but that could be because I wasn't really looking at them. But I think the safety car has come out, so we're getting a safety car intervention for the second consecutive race in the GB3 Championship, partnered by the BRDC. So the race is neutralised after that incident between Sean Rashid and Noah Ping. They'll drop back to the rear of the field, of course. So I think the big thing that a lot of people will say is, have these cars stalled, and is it because they don't have an onboard star? Obviously I know the answer to this question, but I'm still going to ask it to you. Why can they not restart the car?
They do have onboard stars, so you can see Noah Ping driving away there, so potentially he just had something stuck under his front wing or couldn't get the car started straight away. Once the cars are at racing temperature, sometimes they're not quite as easy to start as they are when they're a bit cooler, which is strange, but it's just a bit of a fact. But potentially some suspension damage at the rear of Rashid's car, stopping him. He's currently still on the apex of Druid, so that shouldn't be too long to retrieve. Hopefully just the 1 lap under safety car. If they can get him rolling back down the hill, that he can then just drop in the cut through to the back of the pits on the exit of Graham Hill Bend.
Now, can you believe that stat, by the way? Callum Voisin not taking a win this year.
Yeah, it's still mental to me because
I can't believe it.
But he's leading the championship, and it just shows the strength and the necessity to be consistent in a championship fight. And there's the front wing damage that is clearly visible on Noah Ping's car. Must have had contact with the back of Sean Rashid's car, which is why they became stationary at Druids. But yeah, it's amazing, and I think this could be Callum Voisin's first win for this season. The car's still stuck in gear. I
was going to say, now this is the thing, like, 'cause obviously the car's not running right now, which means is there no hydraulic pressure to change the gears?
I mean, sometimes you can change the gears. To be honest, I can't remember the most detail these days. It's been a couple of years since I drove one of these, but the tow truck has arrived on the scene, so they won't need to lift it off the way, but hopefully they can just tow it to a position of safety. There is a little nook on the exit of Druids on the inside, but they'll probably prefer to take it potentially to Graham Hill. So we might be having another lap under the safety car, but in the meantime, the driver's still working very hard to maintain any temperature they have in the tyres and brakes of their GB3 cars.
And I always say at this point in the race, normally, basically, the way it works is it's 15 laps or basically about 20 minutes is the race length, whichever one comes first.
Yeah.
And normally when the safety car comes out, we reach time before we reach the end of the race.
Yeah.
It's just how it works, because again, it's a busy weekend. This race is also slightly delayed going into the lunch break, so there is also that, as Ping has returned to the pit lane.
I must say, earlier on I thought Esterson had dropped back. I don't think he's actually dropped back very far. I think I was confused because Boberski has made such a step forward. I think he was 14th on the grid, Lewis, remind me? I think he was 13th or 14th.
He was in that gaggle because they were I think they were 14th, 15th, 16th.
Yeah, that's it. But now he's up into 9th place, right behind Kuharczyk. So that's a great start for Jared Boberski, showing that he's switched on the first laps, which we saw that last year in the GB4 Championship. And it's great to see a driver move up from GB4 into GB3 and show that it's a great stepping stone. Noah Ping leaving the pits, so he'll join the back of the field a lap down.
Look at you testing my memory of the grid.
Well, it's only because I couldn't remember this.
No, me neither. I will confirm now as I take a look at the grid again with my old people eyes.
Yeah, it's good to see.
Boberski was 14th.
They're 14th, so he's made up 5 places. Which one of those was Taparis, who took a trip to the dirt on the exit, courtesy of a rude but quite a good manoeuvre from Matthew Rees. I
think it was very good.
It was good. It's definitely not polite, but we're not here to be polite racing. This is cutthroat, top-level British single-seater racing, Lewis, and we know Matthew Rees doesn't mind getting stuck in. It was a late move up the inside. Graham Hill in these cars, you're so fast, you barely brake, to be honest. It's just a rub on the brakes, but you've got to get completely alongside by the apex, otherwise any contact that is made is completely the driver who's overtaking's fault. There we go, Sean Rashid pulled to a position that is safe for us to hopefully go racing this time. You can see the recovery vehicle out the comms box window is now making its way back into the pits. What were you talking about?
I don't know if you can, if you might see it if we look at the front side. There is quite. Look at the air intake there on the side.
Left-hand side.
There's quite a lot on the left side.
Yeah, it's quite
of dirt and
grass, or potentially some bits that were laying on the track that have been thrown up from Callum Voisin's car when they went through the accident site at Druids. But regardless, Joseph Loke will be pushing on as hard as he can. It shouldn't make too much difference. If we see him drop away ever so slightly towards the end of the race, it might be the engine starting to save itself a little bit. But Callum Voisin now takes control at the front of the field, slowing the pack down, letting the safety car go so he can pick his opportune moments to hopefully get a good restart, like we saw Joseph Loke do twice yesterday.
Yeah, and of course, what this means with the safety car being out for this long, this will be a timed race. We'll update you on that in a few moments' time. It's Callum Voisin, though, with the control. Joseph Loke, Mackenzie Cresswell, James Headley and Alex Dunn.
You'll notice that the only driver weaving at the moment is Callum Voisin as he's trying to deceive the cars behind, but he's gone even before the last corner, and he's got an excellent restart, gained almost half a second by the looks of it over Joseph Loke, who's also in turn gained a bit over Mackenzie Cresswell in third. Headley with a good restart in fourth.
Yeah, that was actually a really solid restart from Callum Voisin, very much in the same vein as the first restart from Joseph Loke yesterday. Got the timing done perfect on that one. If we have another safety car, maybe you see Callum Voisin waiting like we saw from Loke on the previous one. There's Zach Taylor defending from Kuharczyk. Kuharczyk getting to the inside in that bright blue car. There's a bit of contact. I think he might have lost a little bit of the maybe the front left wing end plate, as there's Krista Dooley working his way to the inside in the number 2.
I don't think there was quite contact between Kuharczyk and Zach Taylor, as we see is Headley going up the inside at Surtees on the inside of Cresswell. That's a great move, and that's going to allow Dunn to come alongside as well.
This is going to be brave, though. You've got to get to the outside of Hawthorne's. Dunn will surely have a look. Maybe he'll try it, but I think he's not really got the grip or the speed. There is back into the slipstream, the number 16 of Mackenzie Cresswell, trying to work his way back through. That was a big send from James Headley. Of course, green flags are all out. Alex Dunn having to defend from Matthew Rees. Those two made contact yesterday, let's not forget. Let's hope they don't do it for 2 races consecutively.
Yeah, the number 22 that we're looking at now in the grey and red car is Alex Dunn, our championship hopeful. Was second in the championship before contact with the driver right behind him in the other grey and black and green car of Matthew Rees. Matthew Rees, we've seen already, is aggressive in this race with a move onto Paris. He's trying to go up one more place and take a position inside the top 5 by going past Dunn. Dunn's probably going to have to defend into turn number 1.
Yeah, certainly so. Look at how close Matthew Rees is right now, and considering how aggressive Rees has been, I mean, he's looking like he's got a future not in single-seater racing, in touring car racing with those kind of moves. So bold, so aggressive. To be honest, so nice. It was just so well timed. We'll have to wait and see if Rees is going to do that on Alex Dunn. Not close enough to really do anything into Graham Hill here. You can see there's about a car length between the pair of them. You need to be a bit close, like right onto the gearbox there as you head through into Graham Hill Bend. It wasn't the occasion this time from Matthew Rees, so it's close between them, but not close enough.
Not quite this time. It was a great manoeuvre that kicked it off from James Headley onto the podium. He's had another very strong weekend. A 4th yesterday. If he backs it up with a 3rd today, that'll be good for his championship as well. Looking to try and get inside the top 3 by the end of the season. But we got fighting further down the field. That's a row defending from one of the JHR development cars, I think it was.
Yeah, there was also a little bit of a fight between John Bennett and I think Stewart actually wanted to say, because I think he's dropped backwards a little bit over the running of this lap. Bennett not able to make his way through. There is Sita Arau under that pressure, so Arau's also dropped back. There's been a couple of chops and changes in all of this over this lap.
Yeah, it's been a bit of a lap of change, because it all sort of concertinas up and twos and fro's as people. Is Pearson pulling out?
Yeah, Pearson's got a problem.
Yeah, Pearson's definitely got some sort of issue pulling off the racing line. He did well there to pull off the racing line to make it clear to the drivers behind that he'll be slowing down, and he'll probably be pulling into the pits this time. But it looks like Bennett's right on the back of... Oh, no! Hang on.
That's Headley.
Headley's Headley.
Off. Headley has overdone it potentially into Paddock Hill. That is Headley going out wide. He rejoins the race circuit, but he's dropping back. There's Zach Taylor making his way through. Kuharczyk's obviously come through. Waberski's come through in all of this as well. That's such a shame for James Headley. Mackenzie Cresswell set the fastest lap.
I think Headley actually, potentially either Headley made a mistake out of the last corner or Mackenzie just got a really good run, and it probably went side by side through turn 1, because you wouldn't expect Headley to go that wide completely on his own. Here we go again. Yes, Mackenzie Cresswell goes for a late lunge up the inside. Headley just gets on the marbles, and you can see how little grip there was. He did really well to save that. That car was fully crossed up. Unfortunately, he's lost places, but he can still salvage a result inside the top 15 if he continues.
Yeah, again, it was just aggressive from Cresswell, but absolutely fine within the letter of the law. You know, there was no contact, nothing between the two of them. It was brave again.
Yeah, it shows that once you have an opportunity to overtake, you need to, you know, fully commit to it. But it sometimes does kind of screw over the driver you're going through on the inside of. A lot of races this weekend completely dry, so offline, especially at a one-line corner like Paddock Hill, there is a lot of pickup, a lot of bits of rubber that roll off the tyres and sit offline. And as soon as you're off that racing line with all that shiny, sticky rubber on, you're just basically a passenger, especially because Paddock Hill is so off camber. Oh, Edward Pearson.
That's a big shame for Pearson, who's actually running quite well in this race, but like I say, there might well be some form of mechanical. Maybe it was a puncture or something in that vein, we don't know. Obviously, it was racing quite hard. Fastest lap being set now by Joseph Loke, but he is 1 second behind Callum Voisin. Callum Voisin looking for his first victory of the season. He keeps picking up podiums. He's had a pole position, a few pole positions, obviously back in Spa at a couple.
Let's not forget that he was on track to win a race at Snetterton before he was assaulted by Tomek Kuharczyk.
That's a really nice way of putting it.
Well, it was. You know,
his fans are in chat. There is Kuharczyk.
No, I'm a big fan of what Kuharczyk does, but that, you know, the move. It was, you know, we saw that the steward's report. He got a penalty for it, so it was one of those. But Voisin would have won a race by now, but his consistency, apart from that issue, has been amazing. He only DNF'd a couple of times, and neither of them were his fault. So, you know, he's driving an excellent season, which is proven by his lead at the front of the field in terms of the championship. But now he's driving also an excellent race, although he's being followed closely by Loke. Their last lap times less than half a tenth different.
I'm really liking this this form that Loke's finding again, because obviously he dropped off a little bit Snetterton, and then the last run that we did at Silverstone. I am liking the fact that I am seeing Loke back to his best. He kind of struggled a bit at Spa as well, to be honest. I mean, John has said it when he was interviewing Joseph. Basically, there was a mid-season dip, a big mid-season dip. After starting the season in such incredible form, did Joseph Loke. That dip, it seems to have come to an end. It really seems to have come to an end. Won yesterday, looking strong to get a podium today, but unfortunately for him, will be bleeding more points to Callum Voisin.
He will, but you've got to take the results as they come, and you know the drivers at the front of the field who have done other championships and who have experience in karts and maybe other car racing as well, they'll know that you've just got to do the best you can in the race you're in, because you don't know what's going to happen in the future. You know, Voisin has had a couple of DNFs that aren't his fault. Who knows, at the last couple of rounds of the season, anything can happen. All you've got to do is maximise the points available. And stuff like, you know, the fight between Headley and Cresswell, Headley would not have needed that. He made a great move past Cresswell, which got him up onto the podium, but then potentially, you know, looking back on this race, he might have backed out a little bit earlier into Paddock Hill and just consolidated 4th place.
Yeah, certainly so. We'll see when Callum Voisin crosses the line. I believe with 5 minutes and 40 seconds left on the clock, I think it's about 5 minutes 20 would be the cut-off as to whether it's going to be 5 laps or 4 laps, which means, for me, again, never trust the commentator's maths, it should be 5 laps from this point to see us up to the checkered flag. So that's plenty of racing. Pearson, I saw, started moving forward, and I think they've gone, let's save the car for later, yeah?
Potentially. There's a lot of bodies around that car. Headley's not doing too badly considering his trip through the gravel. Still in the top side, the top 10 in 9th place. Now applying the pressure onto the back of Zach Taylor. I think he's got the pace over Taylor at this stage of the race. Although saying that, pace is clearly not a problem for Mackenzie Cresswell. A 1:19.7 is almost a tenth faster than both of our leaders.
But he is 2.7 seconds off the rear end of Joseph Loke. So there's not going to be a position picked up from Mackenzie Cresswell here. Just be hanging on to yet another podium. Zach Taylor on the middle of our screen here. This is the battle 8th position that he's running. James Headley, of course, who was right up there, had that instant around Mackenzie Cresswell earlier on in the race. Very tight between them.
I think it's worth pointing out that Zach Taylor's actually having a really good weekend. He's kind of gone a little bit under the radar because he's just in that sort of lower end of the top 10. But for Zach Taylor, this has been one of his strongest showings. 2 good qualifyings, a great race in race number 1 inside the top 10. He's right there again. And that we know that Chris Dickman car works well around the Brands Hatch Grand Prix circuit. We've seen Etten Simmons take race wins here. We've seen that car be strong around here, but you still got to drive it. And Zach Taylor is doing a good job this weekend. And you know, he's been up and down this season. It's, I think, his 2nd full season. I think he had a couple of races in 21 as well. And you know, he's really finding his feet and doing a good end to the season for his GB3 campaign.
Do you want to know who someone else is running really well?
Go on then.
Mackenzie Cresswell, obviously he's in
He's
third.
on the podium, yeah.
But do you want to know something? Again, this if he finishes in third, which he's likely to at the moment,
Yeah.
4th consecutive podium.
That's a good stats.
4th consecutive. That is, I think that's
Oh,
more.
Headley
that's
around the
more than
outside of
anyone
Zach Taylor. Not quite going to be able to do that around the outside of Druids. You need a bit of cooperation. Thinks about going up the inside of Graham Hill, but then potentially thinking better of it. Not a good exit, though. He's going to be under pressure from David Morales in that 77.
Certainly, so we'll have to wait and see as they come through. But I was going to say, by the way, with the 4 consecutive, I don't know the last time, or if there ever has been, 4 consecutive. Whoa, that was a big jump from Costa to Paris. Wow, he just ran wide, went over the escape road and sent literally to the moon. He rejoins the race, though. Thankfully, car's absolutely fine. His bum might have hurt, but other than that, I think he's going absolutely fine. Jumps in behind Max Esterson, so now into 13th position. But, oh, I can feel that in my back.
Yeah, here we go again. Here we go. Ran wide on the exit and then, whoa, a nice little ollie in a Formula 3 car. But anyway, it's Costa Paris, after a great qualifying, unfortunately just falling wet back after he lost some momentum being overtaken so aggressively by Rees. So, you know, it'll be a disappointing race for Costa Paris. It's so easy to do, though, making a small mistake on the exit of Surtees. Because if you drop a wheel just too wide on the curb, which is easily done, you know, it's maybe a foot wider than you would normally go. The car bottoms out and you're just effectively skateboarding onto the exit and onto the grass.
Yeah, and it's like I say, as you rise up that crest, it almost kind of pushes you even further out of that slide. Again, that's more from my experience in sim racing. And yes, I am bad at Brands Hatch. There are 2 corners that really, really get me around here.
Go on then.
Surtees.
Yeah, tricky.
And Sheen.
Yeah, because it's completely blind on the entry.
You have to be so unbelievably fast and unbelievably brave. Can see Headley's got himself ahead of Zach Taylor.
Look at all the
by the way.
Look at all the dust and dirt that's offline dragged over from when Paris went through the grass there. But yeah,
dirtier tyres up towards Hawthorns, or
who?
Not
Sorry?
really? Is it going to give dirtier tyres up towards Hawthorns?
By the time the cars have come round, I don't think there'll be enough dirt to worry about. Here we go, replay. Oh, at the inside of Druids. That's a great move from James Headley. Clearly got a good exit through Paddock Hill, set it up and was up the inside by the time they got to the bottom of Paddock Hill, because you know, it's a textbook mover at Brands Hatch, really.
Yep, and the dust and gravel's showing brilliantly on his Arden VRD car, so that's going to definitely need a solid clean before we go racing.
Oh,
yeah.
Someone's been through the polystyrene bollard on the exit of Sterling's. We haven't seen that, but if we see a car with damage front end, maybe towards the back of the field, that could be who's done that. But anyway, for now, at the front of the field...
Could it have been Pearson?
Potentially. No, because we saw him pull off, didn't we?
Yeah, we'll never know. I mean, it could have been in a race that I was covering before, because we were going through polystyrene hoardings like it was going out of fashion. We won't talk about that too much. Here's Kuharczyk and Headley very close. Headley on the recovery drive. Really good pace at this stage of the race, considering that car's not been on circuit for the whole race. Clearly no damage done, and he's literally romped away from Zach Taylor and right onto the back of Kuharczyk. I mean, this is a driver that's generally at the front, although Kuharczyk's a driver that we expect to be at the front fairly frequently, being put under increasing pressure from Headley, who's clearly not looking after his tyres at all. He's not going to get a move done into Hawthorns, though. No, not quite this time by, but Headley, even with the overtake on Zach Taylor, was a good 3/10 faster than Kuharczyk ahead, so he's got some serious pace in that Arden VRD car. I know it says last lap, I actually believe this is the penultimate lap. It depends on where Callum Voisin is, of course, because 20 seconds from this point. These two are actually quite far behind Callum Voisin, although to be fair, Voisin might have actually just started the final lap of the race. That might be why it says it. As we've got 10 seconds left on the clock. Callum Voisin will come across the line and will continue to lead. 1.1 seconds clear of Joseph Loke, Mackenzie Cresswell, Alex Dunn, Matthew Rees in behind. Voisin's looking strong to take his first win of the year. We continue looking at this fight between Kuharczyk, who is in 7th place, and Headley on the recovery in 8th. Can Headley make this move? I think he's the closest driver inside the top 10 to anyone around him, but it's a dominant drive so far from Callum Voisin. A great start, good restart, and then he's pulled away, but it's telling how tight this championship is. All of the top 5, their fastest laps are within about 1/10.5 of a second. So close, Lewis. It is beyond impressive, but this driver, Callum Voisin, goes onto the Grand Prix loop for the final time in this race, and like you say, just pulling away from Joseph Loke. I'm still just so impressed with Loke and his quality, his consistency. He's really starting to put pressure on Voisin for the title anyway. Yeah, Voisin was definitely not comfortable, especially considering we've got 7 more races after this one in the championship. But onto the final sector, Callum Voisin goes, which will be his first race of this season. Incredible. Not the first race in GB3 that he's won, though, because he won a couple last year. Yeah, certainly so. Well, Callum Voisin, our championship leader, will come through. Rodin Carlin on top. Callum Voisin finally on top in 2023. He takes the race victory here in race 2 at Brands Hatch. Round 17 of the championship, 1.3 seconds clear of Joseph Loke. Mackenzie Cresswell, I cannot tell you the last time that a driver got 4 consecutive podiums. Yes, I know it's probably a bit courtesy of that cancelled Silverstone race, but it shows how impressive Mackenzie Cresswell has been in the latter portions of this season as everyone funnels their way across the line. Voisin's finally done it. Is this where he starts to pull away?
It could be. It's another points gap ahead of his nearest championship rival, who is now Joseph Loke. Alex Dunn in 4th place. He'll be happy with that, considering he started down, I believe it was 6th, wasn't it? He started, I think. So up a couple of places, thanks to Headley going down and a good start. But yeah, Cresswell, another podium, really solid. Good drive from Loke to stay in 2nd place. And then, as you mentioned, Callum Voisin, a great drive. Also, definitely worth noting, Jared Boberski all the way up to 6th place by the end of the race.
Really solid. I mean, again, passing is really hard around this circuit, but we saw it from Noah Ping yesterday, and we're seeing it again from Boberski in this race. Just was able to kind of find his way through nicely, comfortably, easily. It almost looked like, of course, that safety car probably helped just a touch. There is a look at Callum Voisin taking his victory finally. Plenty of drama in that race, less so at the front. I don't think Callum Voisin will be aware of any of it as he pulls a further 6 points clear now of Joseph Loke. Alex Dunn not able to quite make the most of it either. He got in 4th position in that race, so losing out a bit more points for the championship lead, but you know, that is kind of is what it is. It's what you expect. Didn't have a great qualifying this weekend for Alex Dunn, and unfortunately with the incident in the previous race, his championship it's not fallen apart completely. We've still got 2 more weekends of this and a crazy reverse grid race also. There is Callum Voisin out of the car, and of course straight into the embrace of his team, family, etc. Everyone that's here in support of Callum Voisin. He's such a good driver, such a good talent. Also, he's a nice guy. There's Joseph Loke. Again, instant debrief with Mike Epps and the team, understanding what has happened there. Victory yesterday, 2nd today. Actually had quite a decent race start. Was going for the race victory on that race start. Was unable to quite do so, but it was certainly a good attempt. And unfortunately, if you don't do it on that first lap or so, there just isn't really the opportunity. Tom Wallace, who has been, I think he's the lead mechanic on Callum Voisin's car. He's certainly been juggling a lot at Rodin Carlin. A little bit of a handshake from Voisin, as well as, of course, Joseph Loke. Obviously, these two, I think a lot of the drivers in the grid do get along very, very well, and it shows it once more that there is a lot of camaraderie in the grouping. We'll now be able to catch up with all of them. Same 3 podium finishes as they were yesterday, just in a different order, with John Jackson.
Thank you very much, Lewis, as we see Callum Voisin just breaking the sign, because why not? It's his first race win of the year. We'll let him get away with it. Championship leader, of course, extending his lead at the top of the championship, which we'll talk to him in a second. Got to get the pictures. Family and friends here, making sure they get his moment. Callum, don't worry about the sign, mate. It's fine. Someone else will come and fix that, because you've just won your first race of the season. First race win of the season, well done.
Thank you very much. Yeah, that was long overdue. No, but a massive thank you to these guys. They've done, an awesome job. Our run of form has just gotten better and better, I think, since the summer break, and we've just been, every test we've been at, we've gotten better and better, and yeah, it's all thanks to the Rodin Carlin boys. They've, put everything behind me, and yeah, glad to see it's finally paid off, but yeah, I just want more now.
Well, look, I'm sure you will, because you are the championship leader and you've extended your lead. You came in as the championship leader and you extended it a little bit yesterday, extended it a little bit more today. Joseph Loke told me yesterday he wants to end this weekend as the championship leader. That's probably unlikely now. It looks like, you will end the weekend as the championship leader, and with 2 rounds to go, that's where you want to be.
Yeah, for sure. I think, obviously it's not over yet. There's still one more race with, a lot of points on offer, but yeah, it's made our chances a lot better, and certainly confidence-wise, it's done a great deal of good. So yeah, no, I'm excited. I think it's going to be a good end to the season.
It will indeed. Callum Voisin, your first race win in GB3 this year. Congratulations. We'll let you go and celebrate with the rest of the Rodin Carlin team. Very great drive there. I mean, didn't put a foot wrong at all, did he? Let me go and find Joseph Loke, who's just chosen this opportune moment to run away. Let's go on a little wild goose chase here. Hey Joseph, so I mean, a win yesterday, P2 today. It looked like at the start there, you nearly had him. Very close.
Yeah, obviously, I knew that the start was the best chance, and I got, you know, a pretty good launch, but, you know, it took Callum to really make a mistake on the launch to really be able to get him. But yeah, I'm happy with the race. I think the pace was really good considering the tyre we were on. He was on much better tyres, so, you know, I think I can be pretty happy with that. The pace was strong and nearly got fastest lap, but not quite.
You did. Do you think that the safety car so early on maybe hampered another opportunity after he made that first mistake? No, not really. There was, once he's gone and after lap 1, there's no chance, because around the back section the dirty air is just that bad that it's impossible. So yeah, I did the best I could. It was a shame I couldn't win, but you know, I'm not too disappointed. Excellent. Well, of course, we have the reverse grid race coming up later on, loads of places to make up, so we'll see you then. Congratulations, Joseph Loke there with JHR Developments, coming second after winning the race yesterday. Let's go and find Mackenzie Creswell, who is a very consistent driver. I mean, he had a race win and a second place at Silverstone. Now 2 third place finishes for you, Mackenzie. I mean, everything, as I said yesterday, is really clicking for you.
Yeah, exactly. Still not quite where we want to be, but we're making improvements. The car was good. I think I had fastest lap at one point. I was struggling towards the end with the tyre a little bit, but yeah, it was a good race. Had some races along the way, made a mistake on the restart, but managed to get the place back. Yeah, good result.
Seen there's a lot of family and friends. I've seen your dad's over here. I mean, like, you know, it's huge to get a podium with family all watching, and it must be a great moment for you.
Yeah, exactly. I've got a lot of people here, including my English teacher, Mr. Stone. He's here with his family, so it's really nice to get a good result to show off my hard work to them.
And everyone's wondering back home, what is around your neck?
It's a fan, so I don't really like the heat, or I don't like this heat too much, so my trainer Stu, he's got these neck fans that I put on when I'm not in the car to keep me cool. And yeah, I really need it after that race. It was very hot.
Well, I think we all need one as well, so maybe we'll be hitting him up after this, but congratulations to P3 finishes and the reverse grid race to come.
Yeah, exactly. It's going to be carnage. It's tricky to overtake here, but I mean, there's always incidents in the reverse grid race, so I'm going to hope to move forward. I think we'll have a good car for that race, so I'm feeling confident.
Excellent stuff. We'll let you go and get your trophy. Mackenzie Creswell driving for Elite Motorsport, and Lewis will talk you through the trophy presentation up on the podium.
Thanks, Jonas. And yep, it was more excitement. We'll take a look at highlights, though, from the race. Highlights from round 17 of the GB3 Championship, partnered by the BRDC. Callum Voisin starting this one from pole position, which is a worse start for him than it was for Joseph Loke. He get around the outside at Paddock Hill and really was attacking the race leader. Up the hill they'd go, contact between the pair of them, but just a little brush. Joseph Loke not able to get around the outside of Callum Voisin and complete the move, and the Rodin Carlin car would hang on to the race lead, looking for his first victory of the season. There were a couple of squeezes out wide, including that from John Bennett, putting 2 wheels into the gravel and into the dirt on the run out of the corner. Was able to get back onto the circuit as Noah Ping was having a couple of issues. Not quite the same recovery drive as what he had yesterday. There would be a safety car courtesy of an issue for Lucas Styko and Noah Ping in that instant. Once we got back racing again, we were flying around this circuit. It was a big move down the inside from Mackenzie Creswell. A mistake there from James Headley, just getting onto the rubber, onto the marbles and being pushed straight off the circuit courtesy of that. Costa Paris having a bit of an excursion off the circuit at Surtees, up and into the air. He'd rejoined the race circuit, losing only a handful of positions, and James Headley was putting on an unbelievable recovery drive straight down the inside of Zach Taylor as he'd work his way up comfortably inside the top 10. Callum Voisin, though, was leading the race. He'd come through the final corner and would take his first victory of 2023 in dominant fashion over Joseph Loke and Mackenzie Creswell. We'll take a look at the race finishing order as well. Of course, provisional, but still, Voisin, Loke and Creswell on the podium. Alex Dunn in 4th position with Matthew Rees in 5th. Waberski having an excellent drive up to 6th position with Kuharczyk in 7th. Headley, Taylor and Morales round out the top 10. We'll see Esserson in 11th position, Costa Paris in 12th after that run off the circuit, Christodoulou in 13th position, then Arau, Stewart, and the rest of the finishing order. We'll head down though to see the podium with all of our podium drivers.
Yeah, we're down here. We've managed to sync up with the amazing fans that are sort of like out braving these weather conditions. In third position in the GB3 Championship, partnered by BRDC. Fantastic pass to get back into that third place. Number 16, Mackenzie Cresswell. Well done, Mackenzie. Up onto the third step. Gemma comes out with the trophy. Fantastic job. In second place, yesterday's victor, number 84, Joseph Loke. Well done, Joseph, up onto the second step this time. But he may be leading the championship, but he's now secured his first victory of 2023. The monkeys off the back. Number 35, Callum Voisin. That's a big smile. Fantastic job. Up onto the top step he goes. The trophy, so smile to the cameras. Hopefully, Mark, I should get a chance to grab an interview as well.
Yeah, you still got time. We've still got a car on the gravel.
Brilliant. So they're up on the top step now. Posing for the... they're nicely stepped as well, I've just noticed. Fantastic. Thank you, guys. Now, don't disappear, because for the circuit spectators here, I can grab a few words. Callum, I saw that puff out of your cheeks there. That got to be realistic to get that first victory.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's been very long overdue. You know, it's not all the time, not every day that you have a championship leader that hasn't won a race for, what, you know, five rounds or something. So, no, I mean, incredible job by the Rodin Carlin boys. They've given me an amazing car. We've worked extremely hard over the, you know, the summer break, and yeah, no, I'm over the moon. I'm pretty speechless at the moment.
I love that fact, and that's got to sort of like release the pressure for the remaining races as well now.
Yeah, for sure. You know, especially confidence-wise, it's, you know, given me a huge lot of that. So yeah, no, I'm very excited for the second, well, the last part of the season. I think it's going to be, you know, very tight between these guys, but I think it's going to be good.
Congratulations. We now go to Joseph. You got the victory yesterday, followed it up with a second, but you know he's there for the taking. Got this reverse grid. I mean, it's turning into a good weekend.
Yeah, obviously, this weekend's been a big turnaround of form over, you know, since the last couple of rounds, and you know, it's just nice to be back on the podium again, to be honest. Obviously, picking up the win yesterday, I wanted to try and, you know, make that a double this week in this race, but you know, I did my best. I tried to attack Callum as much as I could, but you know, we raced hard but fair, and yeah, it's nice to be able to have such a clean battle with, yeah, with people like Callum.
Oh, it's a fabulous job, well done. And in third place, we've got Mackenzie Cresswell. Oh, wow. I mean, what an incredible race that was. It was a good move on you, but your move into Paddock Hill Bend, that must have been a scream in the helmet moment.
Yeah, it was. I made a mistake at the restart. That cost me a position. James had a good move into Surtees, but yeah, he made a mistake, I think, 2 laps later through clearways. And I managed to get the run into Paddock Hill Bend. And I just managed to I just squeezed up the inside and managed to take the place back, which was really good. Yeah, the car was really good. I think fastest lap in the end as well. So it's a good result, but still wanting more.
It was a late call, wasn't it, that you suddenly went, I can go for this, I can go for this, and then you dived up nice and fully cleanly, I have to say as well, that you just suddenly went, I've got to go for it. And you do in these GB3 cars. If the opportunity's there, you've got to take it. Yeah, exactly. It's so difficult to overtake in this championship. So when the opportunity comes, you sort of have to grab it with 2 hands. So yeah, it was a late move, but yeah, I'm glad that it paid off. It certainly did. Well done. Fabulous job. Your top 3 for the GB3 Championship, partnered by the BRDC.
And as ever, perfect timing, because...
Right, we're down here to get some reaction from some of the drivers who didn't quite make it on the podium. Zach Taylor, that was a really good race for you. I feel like you've had a good weekend this weekend. You've been feeling strong. Obviously went up and down in that race, but just give us your point of view for that one.
Yeah, we got a good start. I think when the first safety car came out, we were in about 6th place, which was good. I think the car had good pace, but just kind of got put into a few wrong places. Just at times, like turn 4, for example, just dropped me down a few places. So I think ended up P9, which in the top 10, which is good. I think, but yeah, we want to be pushing forward into top 5 and onto the podium for the last 2 rounds of the season.
Yeah, I feel like the experience you've gained over the last couple of years has really come in you're getting more and more consistent results right into the top 10. And we mentioned on the stream, actually, in the commentary box that, it's been a really solid weekend. Do you feel like you've really sort of clicked with something this weekend?
Yeah, I think we had a difficult first few rounds up until Snetterton, and then since Snetterton it's been a bit of a turning point. We've always been consistent in the top 10. The team's done a good job with the car, and I think I've kind of developed as well with the car being how it is. So yeah, I think just be consistently getting in the top 10 I think is good. But yeah, no, I just want to be pushing for more for Zandvoort and Donington.
And then a reverse grid later on today. What do you reckon?
Chaos. It's difficult to pass around here anyway, but yeah, with everyone towards in the rear end of the grid trying to push forward, I think it's going to be a chaotic race. Try and force a few people into mistakes, but yeah, hopefully it's another good one for you guys to watch.
I hope so too. That was a good one. And what would a good race 3 look like to you?
Just get back in the top 10 from I think 16th or 17th. Few overtakes here and there. Just kind of watch people fall off, hopefully.
Yeah.
Pick up the pieces. So yeah, top 10, and all 3 races in the top 10 would be good for the championship.
Brilliant. Thanks for chatting to us. Hopefully race 3 goes well. I'm going to grab Jared Woburski next. Jared had a good race for Fortec. Jared, quali wasn't quite exactly what you or your teammates wanted, but in that race you made up quite a few positions down, I think from, was it 13th or 14th up, well inside the top 10.
Yeah, overall quali was a bit of a disaster for us. We were the last 3 cars out the pit lane, and we were running a 2-tyre strategy. So when we ran out, we caught all the traffic when everyone was scrubbing sets. So that was really unfortunate. Race 1 was pretty good. Went from P14 to P9 and lost it on the last lap after a rear left issue. So, but yeah, this race was really good. I knew the start was, where I had to make my moves. Made like 3 or 4 places on the start, and then kind of got lucky with 2 places in the end of people falling off. But yeah, we saved our good set for the last race, so we were expecting to do worse this race. So yeah, it was a nice result.
That bodes well, the fact that you had a really good race in this one, got from outside the 10 into well inside the top 10, and you saved your best tyres for last. So hopefully you can push on again, and you've learnt a few bits and pieces for the start of race 3.
Yeah, overall it's a good race for us with the bad tyres, and race 3 is kind of where we have our money on. We're starting a little bit higher. Still not up front, but yeah, we're going to have to make some moves, and we'll have a good set to do that.
And what's the secret to gaining that many positions? Because we hear it all over the paddock that Brands GP quite hard to overtake. You're making it look easy.
Yeah, biggest thing is the start. You got to make sure your prep lap's really good and get a really good start. Over here it's really tricky with how the track dips down, so a lot of cars are rolling on the line. So yeah, you just got to have a good start and just fill the space. That's the biggest thing, is just fill the space.
Fill the space. Talk to us about that start actually. Are you having to triple pedal and like heel and toe off the start, or are you just waiting until the lights nearly go and moving your feet? What's the tactic?
Yeah, the thing is with my feet, I can't actually hold the brake and the throttle at the same time. So at the starts I'd have to like full on the clutch, hold the brake, and then as soon as the lights go off I have to get on the throttle. So it's really tricky to get it right, but it's worked for 2 races now, so clearly it's something good.
Yeah, clearly you're doing something right because it's going well. But anyway, thanks for chatting to us, Jared. I'm going to grab Matthew Rees if he's ready to grab a word with us. Matthew had a strong race in that one, coming through the field, some aggressive manoeuvres. We saw the overtake you did on into Graham Hill Bend. That was late, but I thought it was a good move.
Yeah, I thought it was okay. I was a bit, even for my liking, I was a bit too far back. I think 1-2 car lengths. It was a case of I am going to make this move or I'm going to go in the grass, because we're obviously going to get stuck here in Brands. So I thought it was a good move. A bit of a poor start, unfortunately, but managed to make up for it in the end. And to be honest, just a good race in the end, and we managed to score good points, so I can't complain about it.
And you had good pace towards the end of the race. They're only, I think, like half a tenth or so off the front couple of drivers. And you think in race 3 that you can maybe make your way through the field? We've seen you make many overtakes previously, especially around here last year as well. So what's the hope for race 3?
I think the hope for race 3 is just move forward, see how many we can get in the end. It's going to be a bit of a close one, especially with them obviously having not the best tyres now, and we're all going to take all the air off. So I think this will be a good race to watch. Hopefully we can make more manoeuvres than the rest, but at the end of the day it just comes down to who can perform at the time.
You said you're going to make some few changes, take the aero off. Is that just to give you a bit of extra straight line speed for overtaking?
Basically, we don't want to get caught in the aero wash like we did just then, because yeah, you're just sitting behind cars, understeering off, and you'll not be able to close the gap and until they make a mistake. So I think taking the aero off minimises the wash. Obviously it's a bit of a hard car to deal with, but then also you have the straight line speed to put the car out of position and hopefully make a few manoeuvres. So should make it easier for racing, and we'll see what we can do with that.
Brilliant. Thanks for chatting to us, Matt. It's good to see you having a good Good race number 2. Should we grab a word with Christian Mansell, seeing as he's around? Christian, want to jump on in? Obviously 2021 GB3 driver, now moving on to other things, moving up the motorsport ladder. It's been a good season for you. Just round off your season, tell us what you've been up to.
Wow, lots, man. Obviously 2023 FIA F3 was a pleasure with Campos, 12th in the overall championship. Mega year. Had the podium in Silverstone, had a podium in Spa from quite a ways way back, so mate was really happy with that. But yeah, I'm sort of coming here. I've got a few mates in the paddock, so it's always nice to come back. It's a bit more quiet than I'm used to, but I like it a lot. And yeah, a lot of good memories in this paddock from previous years in GB3 and British F4. So yeah, it's nice to come back.
Good memories, but also you're using a lot of what you learned from this championship when you race in it nowadays, I'm sure.
Yeah, mate. I mean, it's mainly the British weather is kind of the one thing with wet weather driving. We saw that in Spa. It was quite a good example. But yeah, I think just like the racecraft, like British racecraft is very different to anywhere else in the world. It's quite unique in its own sort of way. But you know, I use it all from British F4, from British F3, wow, GB3 now, and yeah, it's all the little things that you learn along the way. You kind of use just in your day-to-day driving life. I mean,
we say day-to-day driving. Yeah. It's in the F3 Championship.
Yeah, you have to sort of bring it down a notch, otherwise you sort of get to like, oh my god, like, you know, I'm walking past all the F1 boys every single day, but it's sort of the normal now. You do get used to it, which sounds quite bad, but in another way, if you're not used to it, you kind of get a little bit overwhelmed quite easy. But I've always been quite good with that, of just sort of like adjusting into sort of a team or adjusting into a different championship. So yeah, I mean, F3 is F3, GB3 is one thing, but they're all the same. They're all race cars. They all got 4 wheels.
Well, 5 actually with the steering wheel, but
yeah, true. You got a point.
Anyway, thanks for chatting to us, Christian. Good to have you in the paddock again. Hopefully, all your friends who are in the paddock have a good race number 3.
I hope so too.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Jonas. Good race number 2 for today. One more to go. Reverse grid.
Yeah, very much so. Reverse grid, obviously very exciting. Lots of overtakes going on there. Another driver winning from pole, and I think it was you that said yesterday that this track is quite hard to overtake on, especially in the GB3 cars. Been a little bigger than GB4. I mean, we saw that again with Callum Voisin winning from pole, and it's hard to imagine that actually that is his first race win. I had to double check that because I was like, no, hang on, Callum Voisin's leading the champ. No, he's definitely won. No, he hasn't won a race yet. And you can see with his emotion there. And you know what? I've just been chatting with Mackenzie Creswell's dad as well. And you know what? I thought Mackenzie Creswell's dad would be over the moon because, you know, Mackenzie's been driving really well. And he's like, no. He's not winning races, and that just shows you the mentality of drivers, their families, the teams as well. If you're not first, you're last, right?
Yeah, if you're not first, you're last. I haven't actually seen, of course, I was down here trying to get some drivers, but you know, talk to us about, again, for those who maybe missed it, for me, was Callum just over the moon? Was he relieved? What was it?
You know, when most drivers, they get out of the car, we see them do the one. They hold their finger up in it, P1. He did a W.
A W for a win.
A winner.
Nice, I like it. Classy.
Obviously, you know, over the moon. Very sweaty race, but you know, lots of friends and family there. It seems like this is the race where all the friends and families turn up, and it's you know, it's great to see. Should we take a look at the championship? I think we need to now, because Callum Voisin is the championship leader, still with Roden Carlin. He's a 13-point lead over Joseph Loke. So first place, Callum Voisin, 342 points. Joseph Loke, 329 points for JHR Developments. Both those guys winning this weekend. Alex Dunn up into third place, 298 points for High Tech Pulse 8. Mackenzie Creswell with these constant podiums. He's had 4 races. The last 4 races, he's been on the podium in different places. In fact, he's ticked off all of them with 2 third places. Mackenzie Creswell, 270 points for Elite Motorsport, with James Headley, who obviously had that moment in that race there. He's on 265 points for Arden VRD, so he drops down a place to be replaced by Mackenzie Creswell. Then, as we just heard from Matthew Rees, he's 6th for JHR with 258. We then have Timur Kaharczyk in 7th place for Douglas Motorsport on 249. Then a huge gap down to Jared Waberski now. He's up to 8th place in the championship for Fortec, with John Bennett 9th for Roden Carlin, Nico Christodoulou 149 points for Arden VRD behind them, and also Noah Ping just in 11th there, getting squeezed out by his teammate by 4 points, 145 points for Noah Ping. And I mean, you know, we've seen some excellent driving so far. Interesting moment there for the Douglas car as well. That was a little bit tricky early on.
Yeah, unfortunately a bit of contact. I think it was between Ping and the Douglas there of Rashid. We didn't see the incident, I don't think, but so the track narrows down so much into Druids up there. It's one of the only overtaking opportunities. The drivers know it's hard to overtake around here, so you have to pounce at the first opportunity. And clearly, either a bit of a miscommunication or a bit of an optimistic move from Ping. Again, I'm not sure. We'll see after the stewards have a look at it what the verdict was. But unfortunately, it kind of basically ruined both of their races.
Yeah, it did. We'll hopefully go and chat to both of those guys, Sean Rashid and Noah Ping, after this, and we'll bring you that before the third race. Obviously, the reverse grid race is coming up in both the GB3 and the GB4 Championship. The GB4 Championship, a lot more resting on that. For Tom Mills, he needs to finish 5th or higher. If he finishes 5th or higher, he will be the brand new GB4 champion. We're going to bring you a little bit of a chat with Nicholas Taylor, the inaugural GB4 champion, before that race a little bit later on. That one follows our next race, and that is still in the GB3 Championship. We're live from 4 p.m, exactly where you are watching right now. It's the reverse grid race. We'll explain a little bit more about how the points are scored and talk you through the grid as well when we return. Of course, as always, check out all the photos, videos, and everything else on the GB3 Championship social media, and we'll see you back here at 4.